All right. All right. Well, welcome everybody to the very first episode of Nathan's Landing. My name is Nathan Aller. I am the proud owner of Ferry Direct Aviation Services, coming to you live from my home here in Southwest Florida. I guess we're meeting today because I've had such a huge outpouring from a lot of young pilots over the last couple of weeks after they've seen my interview with Fly with Trent, the ferry pilot program. And I've had a lot of encouragement that people want to hear a little bit more about my story and my background and where I'm from and what I've done to become a business owner and a commercial pilot, especially when the economy is hard and it's expensive to reach and attain our goals that we all want to get to. So Nathan's Landings, I'm not sure where it's going to go. If you guys don't know, I don't have any background in social media. So this is all new charted territory for me. So please bear with me as we go through this. But I think in my head, what I would like to do is just sit down and talk to some of you low time pilots, some of you that are at 250, 300, just got your commercial, not sure what you want to do. You're being forced down the path to do CFI and you're not ready to be a CFI. That's completely understandable. So I think like what we're going to do in episode 1 is just kind of give you a little bit more about my background, kind of retell the story of how I got here for those who haven't seen my podcast with Fly with Trent. And then as we get through today, we'll talk about maybe what we'll do in some maybe future episodes. Again, I'm a pretty busy guy. I got 3 gorgeous young girls. And of course, I'm constantly ferrying airplanes. So we're going to do the best I can with the social media thing. So without further ado, again, I'm just going to kind of just start off with everybody wants to know who am I and what do I do? Again, my name is Nathan Aller, the owner of Ferry Direct Aviation Services. I am a professional ferry pilot. And to kind of give you the background of my flying career is I've always liked aviation, from a young age. I remember growing up in Ohio and Dad taking me to air shows as a young kid, and I always wanted to be a fighter pilot, but I was also that weird kid with 4 eyes growing up through school, and at those times there wasn't corrective vision, so my dream of being a fighter pilot was cut real short. Flash forward to around 17, I had an opportunity to go down to a local airport, and I met a flight instructor there, an older gentleman, and of course I inquired about, becoming a pilot and how to do it, and I remember him saying it was like $75 an hour. Well, you might as well have told me back then in 1999 that was like $300 an hour. I made $5.15 an hour at a movie theater, I think back then. I made absolutely dick for money. It was completely dismal. So I was never afraid to get my hands dirty, so I told the old man that I said, okay, well, I'll tell you what. What if I came back and every Saturday I washed the airplane, waxed the airplane, emptied trash, whatever you need to do, would you take me flying? Would you take me up and just show me, what this flying thing's all about? And the old man agreed to it. So the following Saturday, I went out there, I washed the airplane, I emptied the trash in the lobby, and I got my first hour in I believe it was a 152. It was the first airplane I ever flown, back when I was actually skinny. And just like all of you, I was hooked. From day one, I was hooked. I said, this is it. This is what I want to do. Nothing else mattered. Until they told me I was going to have to do written test and book test and an oral test and a flight test, and all this stuff was going to cost thousands upon thousands of dollars. And I said, well, what's it going to just take just to fly the airplane? And he said, well, you just need a solo endorsement. I said, sounds good. Student pilot and solo endorsement. So for the next 100 and some odd hours, that's what I did. I was just young, dumb kid, 17, turning 18 years old. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and honestly, school wasn't my most favorite subject. And I guess kind of putting the work in to be an actual pilot wasn't either. I was good enough being solo. I could go and fly when I wanted to. That was good enough for me. September 11th happened, and I went from maybe flying 100, 125 hours at that time, since 99 to September of 2001. And it profoundly had a great impact on my life and a lot of other people's lives who's lived through that era. And I kind of just had a falling out with aviation. It was a weird time period. And I think just where I was in my life, I just wasn't maybe mature enough to be a pilot. I don't know. I had some other things I needed to work out, and eventually I joined the Army and became a combat medic. And when I came out of the military, I pursued a career in paramedicine. I became a paramedic. Started working for some services in South Carolina, and then had an opportunity to go to Knoxville, Tennessee. When I went to Knoxville, I was just right place at the right time and ran into a young kid who happened to be a flight instructor that told me the downtown Island Home Airport was starting a flying club, and they had a 152, and I think they had a Cherokee 6 there, or excuse me, a Archer for rent. And, they would just get me in and, teach me to fly. Well, about that same time, I had a friend out in Gatlinburg, and we went out to the Gatlinburg airport, and I ran into a gentleman there that had a little Tampico, and he told me if I brought him $7,500, he'd have my pilot's license by New Year's. By damn it, he did. I started my training all over again. Haven't flown since basically September 8th of 2001, I think was the last time I had flown prior to this moment. And went down. I got a loan from the bank for $7,500, and took it to the old man, wrote him a check. I didn't do this dumb stuff where I'm going to pay you every flight hour. I wrote him one big fat check. He signed a letter saying that as long as I do what he tells me to do and I pass the written test and I actually put effort in there, that will be enough money to get my pilot's license and I will be a minted private pilot. And the man didn't lie. So on December 31st, 2014, I barely made it through my oral, and I completely slayed the flight portion, all right, like most of us. I was a private pilot. One of the proudest moments in my life, I would say the birth of my daughters, becoming a private pilot, and becoming a paramedic were probably the three most proudest moments of my absolute life. And so what do I do then? What did I do then? I had a great career. I was a paramedic working for a good organization. I was getting ready to go to critical care school to be a flight paramedic. I didn't have any interest, I guess, being a corporate pilot or going to the airlines. I just wanted to be a private pilot. And a huge catalyst of this is if anybody's ever worked EMS, that paramedics and firefighters, EMTs, we work long hours. It's not uncommon for us to work 24, 48 hours at a time. And when we do that, we don't have a lot of time and we don't have a lot of PTO. So mom and dad lived back in Columbia, South Carolina. That was a 5-6 hour drive. It just was getting to the point where I didn't have enough time to go home and see family and old friends. I needed a faster way of getting there. And getting a pilot's license was the way to do it. So right away, I started building that cross-country time. And not only was I building good cross-country time, I was gaining some mountain time experience crossing the Smoky Mountains. I flew at night quite a lot. So I was gaining a good bit of experience with that. And this progressed probably for the next 6 months or so. Things kind of turned south there in Knoxville, just not really a great company. And there was some word that the company was being sold out. Long story short, I relocated to Southwest Florida. And then upon getting in Southwest Florida is when I really started getting serious into flying. And I joined St. Pete Air down in Albert Whitted. Fantastic organization. I think at the time it's the only airport that I know of that had more than 8 or 9 airplanes for rent for affordable prices. This again was back in like 2015. And I think when you were a member, you could rent a 172, like an 80s model 172 with a 430 wet for like $128 an hour. dirt cheap. An Aero was 165, and then they had two versions of the 182. They had the 182 normally aspirated, and they had a 182 turbo, and I think it was 235 wet. Well, let's go ahead and do the math here. All right, I'm single, and I have a paramedic job making $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year. So this is what I did. I lived poor as I could ever live in my life. All right, absolutely lived like a hermit. I put everything that I could towards aviation, and I would not be lying if I did not spend 30 grand. 2015, 2016, and the first part of 2017, I bet you I spent pretty close to $70,000, $80,000 there probably, just logging time. I flew everywhere. You name it, I flew it. If it was farther than a 2-hour drive, my ass was taking an airplane. I flew daytime, I flew nighttime. If it was bad weather, I brought somebody with me that could fly in the bad weather. And I just got as much exposure, and I started flying multiple different airplanes early on. So I got my complex, and I got my complex and high performance endorsement almost immediately when I got to Florida. Started getting a lot of G1000 time, starting to get some retract time, which I think is really, really important. I think a lot of people are kind of stuck with that 172. That's all they have on the field is a 172. The bitch is clapped out. You would love to fly something else, but you know, it's $300 an hour, $450 an hour to fly Cirrus. Well, I joined a flying club, and this flying club was just a really good one that had just a variety of airplanes. I think they had a DA-42 or DA-20. They just had a bunch of stuff. Cool place. St. Peter, you got to check them out. And also the Hangar Restaurant down there at SPG. Absolutely wonderful. So moving along, I started building all this time. You know, I went from 100 hours to now 400 hours, 500 hours. I relocated here. I met my current wife here, Destiny, and she had a young child, Gracie, and we started becoming a family, and we moved closer to Fort Myers to be closer to Gracie's dad. So I started working here as a medic, and when I came here, I ran into a gentleman that was rebuilding a Piper Aero and got in with him, and good Lord, I bet you I have 500 hours on that airplane, 600 hours on that airplane alone. Again, just started building time, flying back and forth between Florida and South Carolina, going to Key West, going to the Bahamas. If I had the money, I was flying. I did not care about the money, okay? I didn't make excuses. I didn't say, well, damn, you know, I want to go out to the bar this weekend. I didn't. I put all that money towards flying airplanes and flying a multitude of airplanes and getting experience. It's all about that, right? So as we continued on, I started building a bunch of this time, and life was getting a little harder and harder around the world of being a medic. If anybody's known, in medicine, there's a thing called burnout. And if anybody knows me personally, I have a low tolerance for bullshit. So you put the two together, especially with my firstborn child, Ryan, being born, it just became too much. And in November of 19, I started pulling out, retired from EMS, came home to the wife, and I said, hey, listen, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I can't drive down a street that I haven't physically worked somebody that's died in a car accident. I can't go into a restaurant. I can't go anywhere in this town without seeing something or reminding something that was just tragic, and it sucked. And I had such amazing support from my wife that she said, you know what, do it. You know, pull out your retirement, pull every last dime that you can that you've saved up, build as much time as you can, get through your ratings, and you know, I'm gonna need you to get that job, right? That's what she said. I got you, but I'm gonna need you to get that job. Well, that's what we did. So in 2020, we got the instrument done. 2021, we got the commercial done, single engine commercial, and then I just recently got my multi. Didn't have a reason for it, and then started having to sub out too many multi-engine jobs to people, landed me to get it. So anyway, so what does all this mean? Well, as you guys may know, I went to try to go get a job. I went to go try to get a job at 750 hours at a company, I won't say their name, but there was a company out in Texas that likes to fly low and file pipelines. And I applied to them, and it was an understanding with me and my wife that I was going to have to relocate for a year, and I was going to have to go put my dues in, and everything like that was fine. It was fine and dandy, and I felt really good. I felt really damn good about getting this job. Like, I had 700 hours, something of the sort, 450 cross country, 200 night. I don't know. It was ridiculous, right? These motherfuckers here, man. All right, listen to this, right? They call back and they say, thank you for interviewing, but you don't have enough 172 time. The fuck, dude? I had like 150 hours on a 172, split between G1000 and what? I had over 100 hours on a 182 turbo. And then I had another, I don't know, 500 hours, let's just call it, in retract time in PA-28s, Saratogas, whatever. And they come back and they had the tenacity to be like, you don't have enough 172 time to come out here and follow a pipeline in Texas for shit pay. Shit clapped out airplane, shit pay at 500 feet above the ground, and I clearly don't have enough 172 time. Bro, you want to talk about the damn wind taken out of my sails? Yo, this was it. So I don't know what you guys do when you get mad. I do two things. I go to the shooting range. I go to the bar. And I was out of bullets that day because they're fucking expensive. So anyway, I landed up in my local watering hole and getting some lunch. And I ran into this gentleman named Brian Williams who had a little airplane logo on his shirt. And we got to talking and come to find out, I guess people sell airplanes too. He was an airplane broker. I didn't know that these creatures of the night existed, and I could never be more grateful. Brian told me a story that he had a client, big time client out in California, that over the last year or so spent all kinds of money restoring this 210, 1978 210, non-pressurized, but tip to tail. Brand new prop, brand new engine, all Garmin avionics throughout. This was the one with the extended range fuel. She was pretty, guys. She was real damn pretty. And so Brian goes, hey, you know, I'm having trouble getting this airplane out. It doesn't seem like very many people fly 210s. Are you able to fly a 210 out to California for me? Yo, I didn't even know what the fuck a 210 was, right? The only thing that came out of my mouth was absolutely, I can fly this airplane to California for your client at a price, but I'll do it, right? I'll do it. And I sure as shit did. So Brian came back to me a couple days later and he told me that he talked to the client, and the client was like, no, man, no, I'm not just letting some kid at a local airport fly my $500,000 airplane out to California. Like, no, man, like, dude, find me another company. Find me a company that's going to do this. Like, it can't be that hard, right? So Brian comes back to me and goes, dude, I'm sorry. He goes, listen, the client's not comfortable, you know, turning the keys over to you. And why should he? I never flew this fucking airplane. I was going to do it. God, what a shitbag I was. But anyway, Brian told me best advice. He said, you know, hey, listen, I work with a lot of brokers. I am a broker. I do this probably once or twice a month. You know, why don't you just go start an LLC, call it, you know, Nate's Flying Service, whatever you want to call it. And, you know, in the meantime, I'll give you as many of these little jobs as I can. I have them all over Florida. I need them moved all the time. And, you know, or I need you to fly out and take pictures and list them and do whatever, right? So I went home, talked it over to the actual boss at home, and she said absolutely. She said absolutely. And that day, Ferry Direct Aviation was formed. It was made. I was tired. That day, I made up my mind that I was done working for other people if I didn't have to. Doesn't mean that I don't work for other people. I just wanted to do it myself. There was something inside of me that I felt I could do, and I could do very, very well. And I did everything legit. I started to form the LLC. I got, a business bank account, got everything in order. And then I came home to the desk and I sent out, and I'm not even exaggerating this, if I sent anything less than maybe 2,500 letters, okay, I would probably be shortchanging myself. I mean, at least I probably spent $500 in just stamps and envelopes alone. And I went on Trade a Plane, and every broker's name from here to California, I sent a letter to. I got on email, sent a letter to. Not a single person had called back. And one afternoon, my phone rang, and it was Brian. And Brian said, "Hey, did you ever start that business?" And I said, "I did. I did, Brian. I'm good. I'm ready to go." He goes, "The client needs this plane. It's been sitting now for over a week. Some maintenance people moved the airplane around. I think the airplane was originally in like Venice. I think it was originally in Venice, yeah. And apparently during this time period, some maintenance people or whatever moved it around and they cracked a tail cone." And Brian was wanting to know if I could get it fixed. And I said, "I know a shop in Arcadia that could do it. Can you move the airplane to Arcadia?" "Absolutely. Absolutely." So Brian and I went out there to Venice, got in the airplane. And after reading the POH cover to cover about 5 times, watching every YouTube video I could, understanding how heavy, nose heavy, a 210 is. I was full fucking send, man, and we flew that pretty bitch. We flew that thing all the way to 16,000 feet over Florida. We test flew the living shit out of it. And we put her out down there in Arcadia. It was there 3-4 days to get repaired. And after it was done, the contract was signed, and I sent that thing in the wind all the way out to California. Our first stop was right outside Dallas, landed in Dallas, and spent the night, woke up the next morning, flew like 45 minutes to another airfield that I guess this airfield, they specialize in World War II restoration planes, which was really, really cool. There was a P-51 Mustang there. And the reason why I needed to stop there was I needed someone to fill the oxygen tanks. This was going to be, I think, July of 21 now. And it was kind of monsoon season all through the southern region. And as I was looking, anything down low was going to be bad. Plus there's mountains. So I was like, I need to get to the flight levels. Like, I'm going to just have to take the headwind, but I'm going to have to get up high enough so I can get above the majority of the weather because of icing and whatnot. So we did exactly that. And I think I took it up to, I believe 18,000 feet, and we were above pretty much everything at 18, and we're coming into the California area, and they kind of give me a late step down, and we had to bleed off some speed, some descent planning. If you ever flown an airplane like that, they can be pretty quick, especially if you're used to only like a 172. You got to kind of plan your descents a little bit, engine management and all that. Get in the traffic pattern and go to put the gear down. It doesn't actuate. It just doesn't do shit. I look back, I cycle it, it's not doing anything. I check the circuit breakers and nothing's happening. So I tell ATC, I say, "Listen, we're having a gear issue, and put me in a holding pattern over the airport. Let me just troubleshoot it." Now, if you've ever been into Palm Springs, there's kind of like mountains all over the place. So we're racing daylight at this time. I have a rule: I don't fly single engine at night in the mountains. I'm allergic to it. I don't advise doing it. And so we're running out of daylight. There's mountains kind of around me, and theoretically, never flew this airplane other than one time before. So I do what every pilot would do, right? You remain calm, you pull out the POH, you go to the section that you need to read. Now, thank God I've already read the POH like 3 or 4 times. So it was a pretty simple landing gear system. And after exhausting all the options that I had, all the little tricks and trades, it was just a matter of pumping the gear down. And we just pumped it down. It was fine. Taxied it into the client. The client was like, "You putting on an air show?" And I said, "No, unfortunately, you have a bad gear, a switch problem. Sorry, I didn't break it. It just came that way." So after that, he took me to dinner. We're in the middle of dinner time, and he said, he goes, "Hey, have you ever flown a Mooney Ovation?" "Yes, sir, I sure have." He goes, I got a client in Portland, up in the Pacific Northwest, that needs one to come back to the East Coast. Would you be interested? Do you have time to do it, or do you have to get home to your family? I said, you put me on a plane right there, I guess we're going to fly back to the East Coast. And right there, one weekend, 2 planes, got to cross the United States twice. How cool is that, right? How cool is that? Got to put a cool story in my logbook about the landing gear. Got to put a cool story about reaching the flight levels for the first time in my career. And that's it. That's my story. That's how this all began. And since then, now we've flown over 30 different types of airplanes. We've delivered over 200 aircraft. I was so blessed to have an opportunity to go and rescue 10 aircraft with amazing team of mine over the summer up in Iqaluit, Canada. We brought it back down here to Lakeland to Brad Neal's to have the wings taken off, and for all these aircraft to be shipped over to Turkey, to a flight school over in Turkey. And it's been absolutely wonderful, and it's been exhilarating. It's been a challenge. And I think with the outpour that I'm having amongst all of you that call me every day, that want to come be a part of Ferry Direct Aviation, I think this is my way of maybe finally reaching out to you guys, all of you collectively together, that maybe we can do something. You know, I'm going to put this out there on YouTube. I'm going to see what I can do about social media. I'm not too good at using this kind of stuff. But I think what would be really nice is to build like a little bit of a community for some of us lower time pilots. I feel that there's a lot of young pilots out there that need a mentor. And I feel that there is kind of a disconnect between the real world application of things and like what you're taught in flight school. And I have a personal belief, and this is nothing to go against flight instructors. This has nothing bad to say about anybody. I'm not a certified flight instructor, so I can't tell. All I can say is this. I feel that when you force somebody to do something their heart's not in, it doesn't really yield great results. And I think that when young pilots who are struggling financially, that are trying to make it to the airlines to make a career, and you force them to do an old archaic process such as CFI, that their heart's really not into the mentorship. Their heart's really not into the leadership. Their heart's really not in to mold the next generation of pilots. Not all of you, some of you. I also think that their goal, what truly lies inside them, is making the 1,000 hours or making their 1,500 hours so they can go off and do something else. And I think the FAA completely has it wrong. And if I was Lord Commander of the FAA and I could wave a magic wand, I would revert it back to the way it used to be. That at 250 hours, you could go get in the right seat of a citation. 500 hours, you can go and get on Spirit Airlines as an FO, just like they do in Europe. And you would go and you would do that, and you would have a wonderful career. Inside that career, you can learn to be a company instructor and teach within your 121 or 135. And then on those awesome years of retirement are when you can come out or when you reach a certain amount of time. I don't know what that time would be, but some suggest that most people aren't really comfortable until around 1,000 hours. That's when you could go do CFI. When you actually can talk from experience because you've actually done it. You have something in your toolbox, and it's more than just theory. And again, I'm not saying all of you, but if you're a 300 to 500 hour pilot, the chances are you probably haven't seen really a whole lot if you spent majority of your time in a traffic pattern or near an airport. Some of you guys do come from some really interesting areas. Some people do learn to fly in Idaho and Colorado, and they have a wealth of knowledge of mountain flying. But being a flat earther or flatlander down here in Florida, I think that a lot of the flight instructors here are very very green. They're just very green. And what I'd like to do is kind of maybe help start bridging that gap. And I think it will serve two things. One, it's a great mentoring opportunity for me. And two, I'm getting ready probably most likely to do my CFI. So it's going to help me kind of teach as well. And, full disclosure, not a CFI yet. But I don't really believe that you need to be a CFI to be a mentor or a leader or somebody that just wants to help the next generation of flying. So without further ado, again, thank you so much for tuning in. That's kind of my story, how I got started. And where we're going to go from here, I don't know. Let's get some feedback. How about that? How about you guys email me, okay? Email me at nathanslandings@gmail.com. And maybe give me some suggestions what you'd like to see on this podcast. Would you like to hear more stories? Would you like to talk about ferry trips? Would you like to give me scenarios? Would you like me to give fake scenarios of, hey, we're a ferry pilot about to do a ferry trip. Here's the cross country, plan it, and talk through things. What do you guys want? You let me know and get back with me. Until then, everybody fly safe, and we'll see you next time.